A very good morning to you. How are you doing? Welcome to Jam 316 Parenting Tuesday, the very first one in 2021. So glad you could take the time to hook up with us today. Indeed, Happy New Year to you. It is a new year. We are looking forward to amazing things this year. And we are believing that 2021 will be better than 2020. You know, 2020 had a lot of challenges, especially parenting challenges with the children at home most of the year. Some of us parents really discovered what we are made of and the areas in which we need to improve on when it comes to our parenting and our parenting styles. I hope we took note of the lessons learned in 2020 and we can begin to apply them in 2021 as we forge ahead and as we look forward to an amazing year. This week, a lot of people are talking about one subject, one thing: goal setting. Everybody is setting goals for the new year. Everybody is planning what they will do this year. You know, especially because 2020 was such a devastating, slow year. I know we are beginning to put plans in place and setting goals. And I thought to myself, what about our kids? Is it important to teach our kids how to set goals? Where do you begin? At what age do you begin? That's what we want to talk about today on Parenting Tuesday. It's goal setting, but for children. How do we do that? I have an amazing guest. I will be introducing him to us in the next short while. As always, I'm inviting you to be a part of this conversation, and you do that via texting in. 20316 is our SMS line, and the WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. Parenting Tuesday. Today we want to talk about goal setting, but we want to focus on children today. We are joined by Kenneth Kariuki, who is a family therapist. Kenneth, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm doing well.
Karibu sana and happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. It's also my birthday. Christmas is also my birthday.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's nice. Yeah. That's nice. Happy birthday to you as well. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
I'm just wondering, Kenneth, first of all, is it even important to teach our children how to set goals?
I think, yes, it is very important that children start learning some of these skills when they are young. Because goal setting is a skill that sometimes we learn maybe later in life, and if learned earlier in life, can be formed to be a habit. One of the things that it does is that it helps children to learn how to focus, you know, like focusing on a specific thing, how to concentrate. It gives the children also a sense of achievement, that I have fulfilled a certain goal and I can achieve certain goals, and therefore giving them a higher level of esteem, even at a very young age. It is also important that they also learn values of hard work, because goals will help them to work hard. Values of consistency, because consistency is a value in itself. And sometimes when we are not very consistent, we don't achieve much. It also helps them, children, to start learning things like timekeeping, because timekeeping has a lot to do with priorities. Okay, what do we prefer to do at a certain time? What comes first? What comes second? All that. It is very important that our children start to learn that at an early age. Now, what would happen is if they learn it at an early age, then they have a chance to start developing it as an adult and then become better and better as they grow.
When you talk about an early age, at what age do you think I should start talking to my children and showing them how to set goals?
I think as early as possible, as early as they can understand what you're telling them. The only thing that would change is the kind of goals that you are setting. So, for example, for a child who is learning to walk, you can set a goal of walking at a distance from maybe point A to point B, and then that will be an achievement that they have made. Maybe having a goal of standing and all that. So I think goals can be set as early as possible. It's only the kind of goals that will change. And also the child's involvement will also change with time. But I think, yes, goals can be set from a very tender age. So we are talking about the age of 2 years to 3 years, because then the children can understand what you're talking about.
I'm just wondering, how do you even begin to explain to your children what a goal is? How do you break it down to their level so that they understand it?
Yeah. So I think from an early age, they don't have to know the dynamics of it is a goal, it is this. At an early age, before 5 years, don't bother explaining what a goal is. Just tell them that you want them to achieve this, you want them to reach here, you want them to do this. And that time, you don't kind of involve them too much in the setting. It's just you because you understand the settings more. But then as they reach the ages of 6, 7, 8 there, now they are ready to cognitively they are ready to understand what it means to have a goal.
Yeah.
And therefore you can even set more long-term goals. So the idea is start with more immediate goals depending on the developmental age, and then go ahead and set more goals that are oriented towards the future.
Okay. When you talk about more immediate goals, can you give us an example?
Like the example I've just given, walk from one step to another one.
Okay.
That's a very immediate. A goal of maybe completing your homework in the next 1 hour. It's a very immediate. It's a very immediate goal.
Yeah.
A goal of I want you to go to the shop, buy this and this without forgetting, and come back, and we'll see what you'll have done. It's still a goal, but a very immediate goal because it has to be done there and then.
Okay.
Then the more the goals that would even take longer is like marks in school. Okay, by the end of the term, this is what we expect. By the end of the year, this is what we expect. So you can go on and maybe increase the time towards the future until a point where you can say, now, what do you want to do for your life and how do you go about it?
I'm just wondering, for a parent who doesn't set goals for themselves, can they even teach their children how to set goals if they themselves are not setting goals?
Now, the way I would like to approach that question is this. If you're not going anywhere, would you be lost? Right?
Yes.
You only get lost because you are going somewhere. So the problem of not setting goals in life is that you never realize when you're off the curve, when you're out of the way. And therefore you don't even recover. And maybe by the time you discover you're not moving anywhere, you have moved in circles for so long. And therefore you cannot, even when you talk about failure, you cannot say you have failed because there was nothing you are aiming at.
Yeah.
So I think for goals needs to start with every one of us. We need to set goals. We need to set very realistic goals. And we need to even to break those goals down to a level whereby you can say, these are my immediate goals that will lead to ultimate goals. So that you know when you're moving towards your goal and when you're not moving towards your goal.
Okay.
So I think it should start with the parents. And even the first goal, like even having a child could be a goal.
Yeah.
And then when you have this child, then you need also to set further goals and say, okay, so now that you have gotten the child, what next? So I think as we continue, we're also going to talk about the kinds of goals we're also talking about. Because some goals cannot be fully achieved. We have to set goals that will not be fully achieved, but a goal that would be a purpose in my life.
Okay.
And also help children to start forming a purpose in their life, which is a long-time goal. Like, what would I like my whole life to be? What would be the goal of my whole life? And that would be a motivator for me and in whatever I.
Okay. I'm just wondering, is it important then for me as a parent, when I'm setting goals, is it important for me to involve my children in some of those goals? Because we are usually told that children learn by observing. And when they observe how I live, they may not necessarily do what I say, but they will do what I do. So is it important for me as a parent to include my children in some of my goals so that they can become a part of it and actually walk with me and see the actualization of the goal?
Yeah, because some of your goals will also involve your children.
Yes.
Okay, so if they're going to be involved and they're going to participate, I think it is important that you set goals for them. I would like to give an example of, for example, when you have a goal maybe to build your own house, and you have children, and these children will be expected maybe to get into some of the rooms. right? It is
Yeah.
good to set for the. It is good to plan with them and say, okay, I'm planning to build this house. It is my goal. It is going to have this kind of rooms. What would you like to have in your room? And then include that in your goals, all right? So in some of these goals, because they involve our children so much, it is so important that they also take part in it.
Yeah.
And also, of course, we are talking about having a participatory kind of family where everybody feels involved. You know, like we need to move away from where the parents are the sole decision makers,
Yeah.
and then the rest have just to wait. You know,
Yeah.
or maybe one of the parents, say like the father is the sole decision maker, then everybody has to wait for them, because it creates some dependency, and then people cannot move away from that, and they cannot have their potential. So it's very important that our goals are set well. We involved all the stakeholders in that, including our children, including our spouses, everyone who is involved, so that everybody can participate towards achieving those goals.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out what the balance would be, looking at parents who are raising up their children in the Christian faith. And in the Christian faith, we talk a lot about faith. You know, believing God for the impossible, believing God for what is not seen. And I find sometimes there's a very delicate balance, because you are those who have faith, but they're not doing anything to see the actualization of that faith, because the Bible says faith without works is dead. But then there's the whole aspect also of setting goals and not involving God in those goals. So how do you create that balance, and how do you teach your children that balance?
I think the first thing, I always say this, I think the very first thing we should start teaching our children, the very first thing is prayer.
Okay.
Because when you have prayer, you are communicating with God.
Yeah.
And that is the first step towards forming any kind of relationship. And therefore, even as we set goals, the next thing we need to do, or even before we set goals, like I'm also looking at look at the life of Jesus himself. Anything he started, anything in his ministry started with a prayer.
Yeah.
Right? Before he started active ministry, after baptism, he goes for 40 days of prayer.
Yes.
Right? And then from there, he chooses his disciples and all that. But anything he wants to do, he starts with a prayer. So I think even in goal setting, the first thing, start with a prayer. Then if you're going to have these goals together with your children, start with a prayer. Okay? Then that kind of gives a kind of what we call in family therapy, family rituals, right? Not rituals in the term of where we know them in religion.
Yes.
But rituals in terms of there are those habitual actions that we take. And one of those habitual actions should actually be prayer and praying together as a family. So I think even before setting the goals, the first thing should always be prayer. Always have God involved in them. And that way we teach our children how to involve God in all that we do.
Very true.
All right. However, you know, like it's also like I have also seen some Christians who fall into this trap of saying, I know God is in control, everything is there. So, and then they use Jeremiah 29 verses 11.
Yes.
I have good plans for you.
Yeah.
Plans to make you prosper and all that. But even with that, I think having a goal, a well-planned goal that has involved God in it, helps us to achieve that, because God does not just give us without involving us.
Yeah.
So there is that part that we have to that has to be there, and God will always give us the inspiration even as we are setting our goals.
Awesome. This morning we are talking about goal setting for children. If you have any thought or maybe something you want to add to this conversation, please feel free to do so. Our SMS line is 20316. WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. First Tuesday of 2021. Thank you for joining us on today's Parenting Tuesday. We're looking at goal setting, but focusing on our children. How do we teach our children to set goals? Is it important? How do we break it down for them? We are joined by Kenneth Kariuki, who is a family therapist, helping us to gain a deeper understanding of setting goals. Back to our conversation, Kenneth. Earlier on, you had talked a bit about the kind of goals then we should teach our children to set. Maybe you could tell us a few so that we can gain a better understanding.
Okay, so we had already talked about the immediate goals.
Yes.
Goals that are for this immediate time. We also have goals that are future oriented. Like we have goals that you need to set by the end of the term, the end of the year, the end of that. Those are also other kind of goals.
Yeah.
We have goals that we call them that give us a meaning.
Okay.
Goals that give us a meaning are not goals that you can achieve in a day. All right. So, for example, as a family therapist, I have to set a goal for myself that I will not achieve in one day. So, for example, I would say my goal is to help families move from just being a functional level to another optimum level.
Yeah.
Now, that means that is something that I have to work for the whole of my life. And it also gives me a purpose in life. And even for our children, it's good to set such a goal so that, like I almost when I hear, like when I have children coming to me and I ask them what they would like to be in life, they will tell you a lawyer, a doctor,
yes.
a what. Those are good. And but they are more of what we are calling a future-oriented goal, a goal that you will achieve at some time in future.
Okay.
Now, the problem with those kind of goals is this, that if you don't have a more purposeful goal, a goal that will give you a purpose, these goals will not make a lot of meaning. All right? So, for example, I always like asking, how long did it take me to be a family therapist? And people think, all the days I went to school, all the years towards graduation, and I tell them, no, it took one day.
Oh, how?
Yeah. The day I graduated. I became a family therapist the day I graduated.
Yes.
Sorry for that. How long does it take someone to be a lawyer? One day, the day of graduation. So, for example, if you went to school and never graduated, you would never be a lawyer.
Yeah.
So that takes only one day. So if I live my life saying that my goal in life is, for example, to become a lawyer, what happens the day after I become a lawyer? You see that? Eh?
Now I get you.
Yes. So then being a lawyer, being a family therapist, being any other profession becomes a means to an end, but not an end in itself.
Yes.
So that's why that is, even if it is future oriented, it is achievable within a certain time.
Okay.
But we need to have goals that are more long lasting and that will keep us moving even in our lives.
Okay. There's a question here. A parent is asking, is it in good order if I reward my children every time they achieve a goal we have agreed on? Is that a good motivating factor?
I think, yes, it is good to reward them, only that the rewards should be different.
What do you mean?
I mean that reward is not only material.
Okay.
It's not always buying a sweet. It's not always buying them something. I'm not saying don't buy them something, but I'm saying don't let it be a material reward always. Even a pat on the back is a reward.
Okay.
Even just saying you did well is a reward. So I think, yes, every time an achievement has been made, a reward is in order. It's only the kind of reward. Now, the other thing that I would like we might not speak so much about it, but it's something that I can introduce, is when you want to have a certain behavior change. I'll give you an example. I also used this example with my daughter when I was a little bit younger. I wanted her to stop wetting on the bed. I thought time has come. She was almost going to secondary school and she was wetting on the bed. So I started with more immediate. The goal was stop urinating on the bed. But I had to start by giving very immediate reward. Like every time you don't urinate, I buy you a sweet. Every time you don't urinate, I buy you a sweet for 7 days. So every day, 7 days. Then I changed that to 14 days. So every day you don't urinate, I buy you a sweet, but you'll get your sweets after 14 days.
Yeah.
So that added up to about 21 days. Then from there, I started just rewarding at random. So I just pretend to forget. Then after 3, 4, 5 weeks, I reward. After 3, 4, 5 weeks, then when they have achieved their behavior, don't reward because it has been achieved. And now they can leave it.
Okay.
All right. So I know the reason that I give this example is that parents sometimes find themselves in a situation where every good act done is something is demanded for it.
Yeah.
Like you have to reward me. Every good act done, then you have to reward me. Every chores done in the house then have to be rewarded. I think the rewarding system is such that it is not only material reward, and you can reach somewhere whereby now you can tell your child, now we are not only talking about your house chores as a reward system, but also as part of your duties in the house, so that you don't keep rewarding for every good thing that has been done.
I'm just wondering what are the effects of rewarding every good thing that is done?
I think one of the things is external motivation is good. Okay, by external motivation I mean things that you give.
Yes.
But left on itself, it's not sustainable. So if it at the end of the day there is no consistency. The other problem would be, like, if you want a behavior change to remain, then it is not owned. They don't own the behavior change. They do it for someone else.
Yes.
They do it for the person who is rewarding them. Okay? So the idea is we want them to also learn to do things because it is good to do them.
Yeah.
Not because there's something that will come out of it. And people who have been always depending on rewards, they lack what we call altruism. Altruism is doing good for good's sake.
Yeah.
Like, I help someone else, not because I expect anything from them, but because it is help. Okay? And I think the best example of altruism is Jesus himself. He gave without expecting anything back from us.
Very true.
So that kind of attitude can only be developed whereby we train our children that even some of these goals we are telling you to achieve, there will be no immediate reward. I will not give you anything for it, but I will appreciate if you got it.
Okay.
And it would be good if you got it.
Another question coming in is asking, my child is very forgetful. Even when we plan things, even when they're given chores around the house to do or instructions, if no one is there to remind them, they hardly get anything done. How can I help her to remember?
Yeah, one of the things is maybe start by creating a program for them and write it down. And that after this activity, make it very clear, one activity after the other, one activity after the other. Also check, maybe you're giving too many instructions at the same time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, parents are very fond of that. They say, do this, then after that, 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 do this. For a child who is 5 years and below, you're giving too much. For a child who is even 12 years, you need also to kind of have them planning. After this, you go to this. After this, you go to this. Right? So that you have a well-planned day throughout the day. Try also to make what we call a habitual kind of chores, or create a habit whereby they know that after this is what follows. After this is what follows. So that then it gets into their system. Yeah. Right. So I think it's more about planning and other. Then it's also good to know that we are all unique. We don't have all the same to remember the same things. Some children are more distracted by play. So find out what distracts your child.
Yeah.
And that does not mean that they are better or worse than the other children. It just means that they have that orientation, and maybe they are more energetic than others.
In fact,
so if you find...
In fact, on that,
Yes.
there's a question on that. How do they contain their child? Because it seems like their child's attention span is so scattered, they can't focus on one thing for too long. They are always all over the place. How do they help this child?
Yeah. So as I was saying, it's about helping a child to concentrate on one thing. And we started by saying, start with what they like, and then move towards harder things. Start with what is easier for them, and maybe prolong that as you continue. One of the things that I was talking about that children will always like and they will always enjoy is sorting out. By sorting out, we mean putting things together, and then they have to separate them.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the exercises that I recommend is just buy local things, beans, green grams, those cereals that we have. Mix them together, and then give the child just like a play to sort them out.
Okay.
That works a lot in increasing concentration span. It also helps them to improve on what we call fine motor skills, because they're touching those seeds and putting them aside. That they will work with a lot. Now, something else that parents don't like, but it is very good for children, is working with mud. Parents don't like it.
Yes.
Working with mud, working with sand. In fact, even when you come to our child therapy rooms, there will always be a sand tray where we work on the sand. We play with the sand. We play with sand and water.
Yeah.
So those kind of activities help for the child to concentrate more. Then you are going to see that also goes to class. It also goes to other activities that they are doing.
Okay.
However, if it's like if there's so much hyper, they are breaking things, they are breaking themselves, they're breaking bones or something like that, then it is good to do an assessment of the child and find out whether it is a disorder that needs more interventions to be put in place. So the child could be having what we call a hyperactive attention deficit disorder. So, but that has to do if you find that the interventions that I've just suggested do not seem to work, then you can go further and do an assessment.
Okay. There are those parents who are great achievers. They hit one goal after another, after another, after another. These are sometimes the people who they post some things on Facebook. They make you feel bad because they have achieved more than they had thought they would achieve this year. And you're thinking, wow, me, I haven't even finished reading the one book I want to read this year. So I'm thinking, how does a parent like that not become so overbearing, such that they're just driving their child from one goal to another to another? Their child has no time to just be a child and enjoy life. How do you gain that balance?
The first thing that I would like to comment about, even before I talk about this parent, is to kind of talk of the kind of goals that we have for children, specifically for children. One, there are those goals that we call community goals or social goals.
Yes.
These are goals that come from the society, from our cultural background, from even our churches and all that. How a child is just supposed to be. How is a child expected to act at a certain time, maybe going to school, attending all the classes. Those are just universal kind of goals.
Yes.
And then we have goals that are parental. You have also to differentiate that you as a parent have goals that are for your child. Yes. Right? And you have to differentiate your goals from those goals that are the child's goals. And then, of course, if we have a teacher, if we have a therapist, if we have any other adult that is interacting with their child, then it has to also to be clear that they have their own goals, which so far we have not talked about the goals of the child. These are just people around the child that are forming goals for this child.
Yes.
But we also have goals for the child. The child themselves comes up with their own goals. So the priority is always you start with what does the child want.
Okay, okay.
then any other goal must be aligned to that. So that is the first thing. What does your child want? Because I might be a doctor, but my child doesn't want to be a doctor.
Very true. Very true.
All right.
Okay.
I might be a very good therapist, but doesn't mean that my children will be therapists. So I must also know what is my goal and what is the goal of the child. First, differentiate that.
Okay.
Number two, every goal that we set has to go with the personality of the child.
Oh.
So when does the personality start? I think personality starts from conception. Right from conception, we are different. Right? You remember the story of Jacob and Isaac. Their personalities started forming in the womb. They
Jacob
started
and Esau.
in the womb.
Yes.
And Esau. You remember they started fighting in the womb.
Yeah.
So personalities are different, and that means that we are all born with a certain genetic makeup that allow us to achieve certain things and not others.
Okay.
All right. So if, for example, I'm a good engineer, I have a mental setup that makes me to be a good engineer. My personality goes with that. All right. And therefore, I have to work towards that. So even our children are very different in terms of personality. So if I am a high achiever, that could have been contributed a lot by the kind of personality that I have. And then my children might not be the same.
Very true.
And therefore, we have also to look at what our child good in. Now, the other thing that we have, a high achiever also has to understand is that we have different kinds of intelligence. There are people who have got a high IQ. You know, they will read something, they'll understand it, and they can even reproduce that very fast. There are people who have got what you call ES, IS, that is social IQ, right? That they are very sociable. You put them with people, they will interact with them well, they will understand the cues of other people. Their social ability is high, all right? We have people who have got what we call a high intelligence in terms of reading emotions, right? So they'll be very high. They'll have a high emotional IQ.
Yeah.
So they will know what the other person is thinking. They'll know what the other person is doing. So our IQs are different, and even it goes to sports. There are people who are very good at activities like sports. They'll run well. They'll do what, and they might not do well necessarily in class.
Okay. Okay.
So even as you're setting goals for your child, first of all, find what kind of a child am I setting these goals for. Even in terms of achievement, I think everybody can be a high achiever. It's only that we don't achieve in the same way.
In fact, that's a good thought, because I want us to talk about our teenagers when they're in that season of their life and they have all these things they need to balance. They need to balance their education. They're discovering who they are and what they want to do with their life. You know, how do we help them to set goals in that area? Now, you are watching and listening to the Jam 316 Parenting Tuesday. Today, we are talking about goal setting for our children. If you have anything, a question, a thought, you want to be part of this show, 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 078 316. Fantastic music. The song is called Clean. It's done by Natalie Grant and it's playing on Family TV. We are also on Family Radio 316. It is Parenting Tuesday. Goal setting for our children. That's what we are looking at today. And I'm inviting your questions via text on 20316, WhatsApp on 0786 316 316. You can be a part of this show. This morning we are hanging out with family therapist Kenneth Karaoke, who's helping us to gain a deeper understanding on how to help our children to begin to set goals at an early age. Now, Kenneth, I'm just wondering about our teenagers. A lot of activities happen in our teenagehood, and especially the world that we live in today with all the technology that we have, and then the children have got school they are going to. They're still in the process of discovering who they are and what they want to become. How do we help our children to set goals and to find balance in the midst of that season in their lives?
Yeah, I think, as I said, first understand what happens in teenage life. Because in teenage life is, if you look at the development, what we call a career development, it is at the teenage level that you start discovering you cannot be everything you wanted to be.
Yeah.
So if, for example, you ask your child 7 years old, 8-year-old, what they would like to be, they will say things like, I would like to be a professor, I would like to be an engineer, I would like to be the next president.
Like to be
You know,
Superman.
they'll have, yeah, I'd like to be Superman. And it is good for that age,
Yeah.
but it's not very realistic. So when they come to the adolescent stage, it's when they start discovering their limitations because they're forming an identity. So, and this comes out very slowly. You know, like, for example, if you ask your child when they're going to Form 1 what they would like to be, they'll talk about lawyer, they'll talk about engineer, they'll talk about, okay, very good careers.
Yeah.
Come Form 2, they're doubting.
Yeah.
They're saying, I don't know whether I can be a lawyer, but maybe. Come Form 3, they don't know.
Yeah.
They even don't know what they want to become. Right?
Yes.
Come Form 4, they're telling you, let us wait for the results. Let's wait for KCSE results. We shall decide then. But this is very typical of an adolescent because they are forming what we call an identity career. So even as you set these goals, allow this confusion to take place.
Okay.
Don't be so much worried about the confusion. The confusion will end at around 18 to 20 years of age. 20, 21, some will even go up to 22 because that is when career identity fully somehow forms.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
So when you're setting goals, just first of all, realize that. The other thing that is important in adolescence age is involvement. That you need to involve them a lot in their career, in their goal formation. And also let them know what is the idea behind setting of goals. Okay? And don't I always ask parents, don't impulse, don't put your goals ahead.
Yeah.
Now, one dangerous thing that parents do is, I might not have achieved all my goals. Say, for example, I am right now I'm a family therapist. By the time I was starting college, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Oh.
I wanted to do veterinary.
Yes.
But that did not happen for one reason or the other. But I'm happy where I am, although.
Yes.
But the parents might not be very happy where they are, right? So what they do is that they try to achieve through their children. So that thing that I was unable to achieve, I want my children to achieve. And therefore, I get a sense of achievement through my children. Adolescents will refuse that with a passion.
Okay. Okay.
And that will be a source of very big conflict. So involve them, listen to them, hear what they want to say. Now, the other thing when you're setting goals with the adolescent child, don't just say a simple no. Say, for example, your child says, I would like to be a model. Don't just say a simple no, right? I think being a model is a good thing, but it might not be long-lasting.
Yeah.
Right? You need to have something else such that as you grow older and as your figure changes and all that, then you'll have something that you'll have stuck on. You know, that would be a good way of explaining that you need to be more than a model. All right. Most of the adolescents who say they will be model never become models. So parents don't worry about that.
Yeah.
When the child says they want to be a DJ, most of them don't become that. All right.
Yeah.
They allow them even to one day practice DJ. Just tell them, I want you, because you want to be a DJ, make something for YouTube and just make it, and we see how well it sells. Most of them will just realize they're not very good in it and they'll just leave it. So parents, don't panic when you hear some of these very crazy ideas that our children will have. It's part of forming the identity.
Very
so
true.
Allow them to go through that process. Allow them to make the mistakes that sometimes they make, and just guide them through the process of making those goals.
I love what you're sharing, because sometimes as parents we get a bit agitated when today they want to be a lawyer. In a few months, they're thinking, no, I want to be an engineer. In the next few months, they've come back and they have discovered their passion. Now they want to be a DJ, and you're thinking, whose child are you? So I love what you're sharing. I'm just wondering, how can we use goal setting to help our adolescent children prioritize and also learn to focus on the important things for them at that time?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, because I think what we need for the adolescents, even when it comes to discipline when it comes to having them going to school, preventing them from taking drugs, preventing them from those other habits, is setting goals.
Mm-hmm.
And especially having a purpose in life, as I said before. Something that you would live for.
Yes.
Something that, sometimes when I have an adolescent client, I like asking them, what would you die for? Because what you die for, you would also live for.
Yes.
All right? So what is that one thing that you would like to have in your life that you would even die for? And, that's a very deep question, because then they have to think beyond themselves. And that thing has to be beyond you. So, for example, when I'm doing family therapy, I'm not just doing it for myself. I'm doing to help someone else.
Yeah.
It's something beyond you that would help you to live for. Then when you have said that, you use the same skill and say, how do you imagine yourself in future having lived like this? And they would say, adolescents will have very fancy way of putting it. They will enjoy it. They will do what. Then now say, what can prevent you from reaching there? So then drugs will not be understood from a negative sense of just leave it. But now, why do we have to leave it? Because you take drugs, you won't be able to reach this particular goal.
Okay.
If you involve yourself in a maladaptive behavior, then this particular goal you are going to lose. So in that way, we don't have always to be there as parents controlling our children. What are you looking at? What are you doing? What are you doing this? We kind of form a self-regulation for them. They can be self-regulated. We don't have to always watch what they're watching on the internet, because the only thing you have to do is show them how that distracts them from their goal.
Yeah.
How that pulls them away from what they would like to become.
Okay.
And let them, and that's why we are saying, let them first of all choose something that they will be passionate about.
Yeah.
That they will live for. So that they're able now to form, that can be a motivating factor towards what they need to live and what they can accommodate in their lives.
Okay. As parents, how do we motivate our children to keep going and to keep pursuing their goals? And how can we support them? Because even for us as adults, it's exciting to set the goals, but keeping the momentum and being consistent, throughout the period that is needed to be able to attain this goal, a lot of us adults are not able even to do that. So I'm just wondering, what kind of support can we give our children, and how can we motivate them to just keep going until they actualize their goals?
Yeah, I think that it's a good question, because it's not only for the adolescents, even us as adults. Sometimes we forget our goals. Sometimes you also become distracted along the way, and you still wonder, like you see when we are setting goals for the new year. By January, we are very much we have so many goals. We have written them down. We know them. By March, we start forgetting them. By April, fully forgotten.
Yes.
By June, July, August, you even said, did I ever set goals really in January?
Yes.
Right. By the time we reach August, you're saying, let's finish this year. So, that focusing on goals really requires a certain skill. One of the first things that is good to do is, when you have those goals, when you have set out a purpose in life, write it down. Make sure you write it down.
Yeah.
The other thing is keep revising on it. And everything you do in your life, connect it with your life purpose. How does it serve the goal that I had for this year, for example?
Yeah.
I've gotten a new job. How does it serve the goal that I have gotten for this? Always connect to the goal. Always have something that connects you to your goal. That keeps you moving with the goal. Now, the other thing we can do, and this is very helpful for adolescents, is design an activity where you can do. Say, for example, let me just use a simple example. If, for example, one of my children has said they would like to be an engineer. They would like to be an electrical engineer. It's a good thing that they would like to become. So one of the things that I always do is, during the holidays, we look for someone where they can go and see how this guy works. See how the wires are put. Also take it further and see, do we have electrical engineers who seem to have made it in life, so that they can see they can improve their vision. Because like, for example, when you talk about an electrical engineer, someone just thinks about the fundi that they see connecting things and all that.
Yes.
Let them see that there's something greater than this.
Okay.
There's something higher than this, okay?
Yeah.
That we have people who are electrical engineers and they're doing a lot of things. Today we have the internet. Let them see what electrical engineers do. Kind of rotate around that topic. Let them fancy it in different ways. And that's how you keep them, first of all, setting higher goals for themselves. Secondly, motivated and seeing that they don't have just to end at a certain level.
Okay.
They can go higher than that. So always rotating around that one. Don't stop discussing about it. And even when they go down, don't let them forget the focus that they had from the original time.
Great. Kenneth, I'm looking at the clock and wow, our time is up. But before we finish, what would your parting shot be to the parents listening today?
My parting shot would be start setting goals earlier in life. Form habits that would help us to go towards our goals.
Yes. Create
rituals in your family. Don't just let your family live without, like, everything is what comes in the moment.
Yeah.
Let there be rituals, and these rituals will help us to reach towards our goals. But the number one goal is always having a good relationship with your God.
Awesome. Kenneth, thank you for your time today. Thank you for your insights. I believe we have been able to pick a thing or two that we can actually begin to implement immediately.
Thanks a lot.
Asante sana. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you.
Well, wazazi mmesikia. Tumeambiwa tusiishi tu kienyeji tu hivyo nde. We have to be purposeful. We have to set goals. We have to help our children to set goals. We have to work towards something. I hope that if you've not been helping your children to set goals, today's program has inspired you to begin to do so and to begin to do so today. Thank you for being a part of Parenting Tuesday. We'll see what God will have in store for us next week. That's all the time we have today. Leaving you with a beautiful song by David Dunn. It's called Starting Now. Tuanze sasa.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.